Hello, good morning, and a very warm welcome to all of you. We are today here again for our digital CXO Round Table panel discussion. The topic for the discussion today is Inspire, Innovate, and Integrate with Take Advantage. We have a wonderful set of panelists with us, and please join me in welcoming each of them. Can I request Mr. Gaurav Varshaney, DGM Regional Marketing, Tata Tele Business Services to join uh, me in this panel discussion. I welcome you, Gaurav.
Hi, Dr. Rajeshree, good morning, and thank you very much for making me a part of this session.
Yes, and so good to have you here. With Gaurav, I would also like to invite Anurag Kapoor, Managing Director, GHV Accelerator. So we welcome you, Anurag, and join me in welcoming our next panelist, Sandeep Sharan, founder, Cognizone, Cognizy1 Consulting and Solutions. Sandeep ji, I welcome you on board. And
Good morning. Thank you.
yes, and apologies if I have not spelled it correct. I think it's Cognizion,
That's
right?
fine. Yep.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Please, again, I'll request all my panelists who are already present with me to join to welcome Gaurav Singhal, CEO, Blue Digital Media Private Limited. Gaurav, welcome you on board.
Hi, it's been an honor to be with you today. Yeah.
Shukriya. Thank you for your
All
time.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I also welcome Mr. Navin Sharma, Chairman, Athena Ventures. Navin ji, I welcome you and join us. Thank you, Navinji, for joining us. Can you hear us, Navinji? So I think Navinji needs some time to settle down. So please allow me to welcome Vidushi Kapoor, CEO, Process 9 Technologies. Vidushi, I welcome you on board and join us for this panel discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Datta. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, wonderful. And so collectively, we all welcome each other. And it is indeed a pleasure and a wonderful experience to have all of you to talk about inspire, innovate, and integrate with take advantage. Just before I request Gaurav Varshney to set the context, I would be very happy to share with all of you that this is the fourth roundtable in a series of, so we are calling it a digital transformation series, and we have been able to pull out three very interesting roundtable discussions, and this is the fourth one. And we have been discussing about transformation, the journey of digital transformation, and the founders, the leaders, the thought leaders. They've been sharing their experience and how COVID-19 has definitely changed, redefined the paradigm shift from how we understood digital transformation and how we wanted to make it as a process, and how we there is no choice with us, now we have to do it. So we have had wonderful discussions in our previous panel discussions also, and the links are already been shared and they are also there in the public domain now. And today we are going to discuss on inspire, innovate, and integrate with take advantage. And Gaurav, can I request you to kindly set the context so that we get going? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajeshree. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, panelists. First of all, I would like to welcome you on behalf of Tata Tele Business Services. Wonderful session. And I wish and I pray that everybody here is healthy and hearty. And I also wish that everybody's family and friends are doing pretty well in this difficult time. This has been probably the worst, maybe last 15 days for us as an Indian. We've seen what's going on in the healthcare industry, and we've seen what's going on in the current scenario. As I said, I wish everybody is doing fine. So thank you, Dr. Rashi. Coming back to the topic, I think it's a great, relevant discussion that we're going to have, and I'm looking forward for a powerful session here, which talks about inspire, innovate, and integrate. I think this. I mean, from now on, I think this couldn't have been a better time to talk about something like an inspire, integrate, and innovate, because We've seen a lot of inspirational stories going in the market for last 1.5 years. We've seen maybe the greatest innovation that has taken place in the last 1.5 years from different various businesses, and not to mention the kind of integration that we have done as an organization, as as industries, as SMEs, as large enterprises in the last 1.5 years has been a great story. If I talk about in the reverse order, integrate the way organization have found to collaborate, to talk, to come back to the customers where they could actually meet physically, the customers has been a great revelation, I would say. Similarly, innovation, as I said, people have found way to collaborate. People have found way to reach out to their customers, to their employees, to to various stakeholders across the world. In fact, I would say this difficult time. Similarly, inspire. I think we don't need to go too far to look forward to look out for inspirations across us. I think there's been a lot of inspirational stories, whether it's been in terms of the kind of work that we've been able to do for our organizations, or in terms of the human behavior that that has been shown across the organization. So I think it's a great topic, relevant topic, and as I said, I'm looking forward for a power packed session from all the friends. Thank you very much. Rashi, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Time. I'm so sorry. Sorry, this has become a practice now. So yes. So thank you so much, Gaurav, for aptly setting the context. Because yes, inspiration. We do not have to look for any available documents. They are all around us. We have to just pick that, and we have to also leverage on the best practices that are available and how best can we collaborate. And to be honest, yeah, the customer experience is now quite evident. There's nothing called, you take something, buy something, go back home, and then you share your feedback, either negative or positive. It's like it's just there in real time. So that is the level of what do you call that? That is the level of innovation. That is the level of technological transformation that we have reached at. So with this, I would like to throw one particular question across all my panelists today, and I'll start with Anurag with you. What is how have you been able to handle this technological innovation integration in this time, in this COVID time, in your organization? If you could just share your experience, that would be better for all of us. Yeah. Anurag, over to
Thanks,
you.
Dr. Rajeshree. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So I think definitely an honor to be here. And what is a better time to talk about digital transformation when we cannot live without it? What I've experienced is that the organizations who were already ahead in their digital maturity, and most of our processes were anyway digital. So hence, switching it on to a digital mode of operations was less of a challenge for us. Um, but what a lot of organizations I saw where I saw that were not digital. The most important for them was to the biggest things people had to let go of and build a mindset that this is
Anurag, your voice
good
is
amount
not
of
clear.
time for the future.
Anurag, your voice is
Is it
Anurag, your
okay?
voice is not clear. I don't know if I'm
Okay,
having the problem. Feeling experience the problem, or others are also experiencing. I don't know. So okay, everyone. So there is a
okay. Just
problem
give
with
me a
you.
second.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah,
breaking or is it breaking?
yeah. It's like the voice is blurred and it's not clear. So I think
Actually
but
breaking in between.
okay. Yes. So you're on mute. You're on mute.
Is it better
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, it's better. It's better.
Yeah. So I was saying the digital maturity of the enterprises who were there ahead in the digital maturity were definitely able to tackle it better. Our processes being digital since the beginning helped us a lot. And the best part is that we were able to sort of um, process orient the digital technologies that we were already using. Now, a lot of organizations who are not digitally mature, I think for them the most important part was to build a digital mindset. Because, and I've said a lot of times in many forums that digital is not a technology anymore; it's a mindset that organizations have to adapt to. Um, uh,
Yes.
there's a certain and what COVID made us realize. Of course, COVID was probably you know companies who were not proactive to do it. COVID put them in a situation where they had to react to this situation and hence adapt to digital technologies. That's where I feel that a lot of times companies were not able to figure out how to convert from a people oriented organization to a process oriented organization, and that's the biggest change when it comes to the mindset and in terms of the approach of handling business of tomorrow. um, how we were able to overcome, definitely we were already digital, but the kind of technologies that were required by many of our enterprise partners were like social distancing in office, thermal scanners at the entrance. Those were hardware oriented, but most important was to be able to manage their data remotely and managing the security of that data. I think these were the critical ones that I have observed with my enterprise partners: the data security and the data management in a remote environment of working for the workforce. I think these are key for us.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, Anurag, and that was very concise as well. So, yes, you're right. The process-oriented organizations, they did not have the challenges. I mean, as much challenges as the organizations that had to actually look at the digital transformation from the scratch. So that is true. But yeah, that is. I mean, this is also very important that the data security and all those measures have to be put in place for sure. So I'll ask. Sandeep ji. Sandeep ji, what was your experience when it comes to the situation that we are going through? What is your experience and how have you approached the entire digital transformation process in your organization?
Sure, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Anurag, thoughts kind of very much relevant, and I won't kind of be more repetitive on what he's already talked about. In terms of our organization, is slightly kind of unique in the sense that our work in itself is software innovation. Okay, so for us to kind of adapt to a complete digital remote kind of model where our innovation typically runs on Scrum, we kind of do a lot of continuous discussion and our kind of work requires a lot of face-to-face physical contact and innovations kind of in our organization, not just our organization, it's kind of unstructured. Okay, so we're talking about continuous innovation, discontinuous innovation. So for us, and that might be interesting for us, we had to adapt to, and I think I would say this is more reactive. I don't think so anyone kind of planned around that, and I think initial disruption was certainly there, and good part has been that for a lot of service-oriented organizations, the adaptability hasn't been that painful as much as what it has been for manufacturing organizations. I think I would say that over a period of time, we've developed that level of maturity to kind of work in models which are like virtual organizations, not physically kind of located in one area. And I think it's been like a year, and we're doing reasonably. Yeah. Thanks.
That is, I mean, very aptly you have mentioned that it was, reactive because the segment, the manufacturing segment, had a different. I mean, it works in a different ecosystem, and then this something like this happens, COVID-19 intervenes, and then it becomes very reactive. But as you said, that we are now almost 1 year, 1 year plus. I mean, we are past that 1 year, and we are now more mature. So maturity has come, but yes, challenges would be there. But good to hear that an organization like you has achieved the minimum digital transformation. We'll definitely talk about the integration part of it in my next question, perhaps next 1 or 2 questions. But again, I would like to know from Gaurav Singhal, how was, I mean, what were the interventions that you made, and digital transformation was already there or not, and how did you innovate? How did you bring your people together? If something you can talk about that. You are on mute, Gaurav. You're on mute.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's good now. So what I was saying is that we, as an organization, so we are a fundamentally marketing and a technology company. So for us, adaptation of technology has gone to the next level, definitely. But our main role is to get other organizations adapted to the culture, to the transformation which is happening. So we are instrumental to transformation to plenty of other organizations. So we have seen a lot of disturbance and acceptability coming together during the time of COVID. And this has majorly been in the SME segment. That's what actually we are talking here in the context. So a lot of adaptability I've seen coming in different site or different size of organizations, where these SME organizations are more owners thought driven, as Anurag also talked about it, that it is about the change that an organization has to go in terms of adapting some kind of a technology to get on to the process and the people. I mean, from the people to the process and things like that. So we have been instrumental. I think a lot of change that we have seen internally also, because we already have two other offices which is in other geographies. So we were adaptive completely. But our journey has been very different in terms of training people, using those technologies, identifying the right technology for the right business so that they can connect to their customers rightly, and do the productive or utilize the time productively compared to the kind of time being pushed to them. It is completely dependent on the size and the processes and or the kind of an organization. Some needs some technology integration, like from a lead management solution to an ERP to a CRM solutions. Some has looked into asking us creating a process so that they can go digital. I mean, the first time digital ones, and then asking us to get on their customers to digital too. I mean, the journey completely has been very very different, and keep changing every week. That's what we have observed internally. That's what my submission.
That is the kind of pace that you're talking about, and you have very rightly
Right.
mentioned that. You have very rightly mentioned that, yeah, accepting is one thing, the adaptability is also important, but then bringing people also onto the same level of practices, the digital transformation practices or the innovative processes or the integration part of it is not easy. So yeah,
Yeah.
overall, suddenly the processes have to be there now, and making the organizations work on a digital transformation discipline perhaps is also very important. So yes. So now I would also like to know from Naveenji, your experience on this. I mean, uh, so we have heard Naveenji in one of the forums before. So I'm sure he has some very interesting points to insights to contribute. So Naveenji, how did you deal with this, and what are the technological innovations and innovations that you tried to integrate and create in your organization?
Yeah, good morning, all of you once again. And I'm sorry my speaker was not functioning, so I couldn't hear some bit whatever was happening. But anyway, so I think all of you can hear me fine.
Yes.
Thank you. So I am basically from an international business consultancy organization, and earlier, of course, we used to travel a lot and conduct most of our business face to face. And because again, in business consulting, you have to really interact and keep on iterating the process and then come to some real conclusion. So meetings were required. You had to be on the spot earlier, but now because of this COVID thing, for the past more than 1 year, we are stuck here only. So yes, we have now taken advantage of the technological innovations. We used to do some video chatting earlier also, but now video chats are everything. And not only that, sharing the computers, sharing files. We were earlier using the Google Drive quite a lot, but now it is the norm more or less. Same with the office people, same with the clients. So sharing of documents, all those things have become now very common. So some of our clients are a bit older, so they were not very friendly with the new technologies. But slowly, they have also started using the technologies now. So now everybody is using these basic technologies. But what I would like to add here is that because of these virtual meetings, yes, the personal interaction has become a bit less. The warmth has dropped. So, but there's no other way. So we are doing with it. But in case of our office people, what we do is that with the office staff, we make sure that we meet them on a regular basis personally also. That is, we organize common lunches together in office or elsewhere, and we also sit together. Even if it is not very much required, we can do things virtually, but we still try to stay in touch personally, because again, it adds more warmth, and staff stays more motivated. You are better connected with people. So what I feel is that technology is very important, but yes, we have to keep on putting in some personal touch also. That is also very much required. And yes, the better technologies which are coming in, they will of course add value to the processes, add value to the business systems that are within the organization, and of course which we use for communicating with the clients also.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Yeah, personal touch is very important, and but processes have to be there. Had the processes been there before, we would have behaved in a certain fashion. It's just that it becomes a little more compulsion as we see it in this present context. But Naveenji, you very rightly mentioned that the personal touch, I don't know, I see that I'm always connected, so I do not know. So it also varies from organization to organization. But I think for the SME sector, this has definitely played a very pivotal role, and I think it's a blessing as well. Yeah, barring there are a few challenges, and in the last discussion also, one of the panelists, he discussed about organizations, they should have a budget for creating the IT infrastructure. So they should definitely have some investment. What do you call that? The corpus. That fund has to be there. If that is there, if our walls are all protected, then I think we are sorted. And collaboration, as Gaurav has very rightly mentioned, that collaborative approach is definitely the key to the working model nowadays. Yeah, Budishi, I would request you to kindly throw some light on the integration part of it as well, along with the technology innovations and transformation that we have been talking about. So, how have you been implementing it in your organization? That would be interesting to know.
Thank you, Dr. Datta. So,
Yeah.
Process 9 is in the business of providing multilingual digital transformation to its clients. So, sort of the digital transformation or the process orientation piece was very much within our DNA. In fact, work from home as a concept was not new for us when the lockdown came. We had been regularly doing work from home for our teams, across divisions, uh, as a regular thing, because we understood that sometimes work from home is a requirement, but it does not really hamper productivity. So we actually had all our tools, technologies, processes in place, and this is something that I had picked up from my previous lives, and I knew that this is something that is the future ready or the future forward way for any organization. So the lockdown and pandemic, of course, it brings with it its own challenges, but the work from home connectivity was not really one of them. In fact, as some of the other panelists have also mentioned, we too had offices in different cities, so staying connected with them anyways requires some amount of digital infrastructure and processes and practices in place. So from that perspective, we were not really that impacted, but definitely with the last 14 years and how things have been, a lot of tools, technologies and platforms have come which are constantly improving upon the existing infrastructure and platforms which were in place. So those are very interesting to see, learn and adapt from. There are different ones that to look at, the HR perspective, even if it's something as simple as onboarding a new employee or managing attendance, leaves, etc., from something as simple as that to the very complicated and deep aspects of the development cycles and Scrum. So all of those platforms have had a lot of advancement, given that all this situation was literally thrown upon us. So that has been a very interesting aspect to this COVID, 14 months of COVID, and so that has been a good thing to see, and this is going to just get better and better with time. Now I know there are some processes which we have to adopt because of the lockdown, but even if the lockdown goes to a large extent, we are going to continue with them. Something as simple as keeping 50% to 60% of your interstate or intercity sales meetings on video call. I mean, that takes away so many challenges of timeliness. You don't have to find out my flight is only going to be there 1 week hence, so we cannot meet so soon. Takes care of time, cost and so many other factors. So things like these, they're going to stay even after the pandemic goes away.
I think
Okay,
Dr.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I was on mute, and so very true, Vidushi. Very rightly, you mentioned, and as you did said that digital transformation was in your DNA. So the organizations that have had the digital transformation interventions, or that were like working on the core principles of digital transformation, for them the uh, transition was easier. However, as Gaurav Singhal mentioned that bringing the customers also onto that practice, onto that level of maturity or readiness is something that is a challenge altogether, and you will have a different level of maturity. The challenges will be more mature as compared to others. For example, manufacturing unit will segment has a different set of challenges. So for them, starting from the scratch was a challenge, and integration is something that I would really love all of you to talk about when I take my next question. But Gaurav, Varshaney, what were the technological innovations that in your organization that you have
Well,
implemented?
sure.
Yeah,
Dr. Rashi, in
yeah.
fact, we as an organization, Tata Tele Business Services, we actually do help out SMEs in terms of their digital transformation. But just to give you a flavor, in the last 1.5 years, I think SME sector has been the major contributor towards the digitization or towards the whole digital transformation. I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the bigger organization, the enterprise, the large pieces of the organization, they were already equipped. They had the processes, they had the collaboration tools in their DNA as per say. So it was nothing new to them, in terms of the digital transformation. However, the SME sector of India actually has led this whole journey of digital transformation pretty fast. So there was a report which I was, which I was going through a couple of days back. In fact, SME segment of India has actually accelerated the growth of digital transformation by 3 or 4 years. By adopting to technologies like big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity. Anurag talked about. These all things. These all jargons which we used to call it maybe 2, 3 years, 4 years back have now become a reality because as I think Gaurav Singhal talked about, as Vidushi also talked about, that people have started working from home. Mr. Naveen also talked about how data is important now. Now, when you're talking about exchange of files, exchange of information, data, everything, you're talking about a clear risk of cybersecurity, right? And again, as per one of the reports, cybersecurity has actually is going to cost close to 6 billion US dollar worth of loss to the organization. So we're talking about all these, digital transformation tools, as I said, cybersecurity, big data, cloud computing, and that's where we as an organization come into play and help SME overcome these challenges. So it's been a great story because whenever I talk to my customers, my channel partners, they always come back and say, that the SMEs are the one who are driving this growth for digital transformation. That's been my experience actually.
Wonderful, wonderful, Gaurav. I think you are right when you say that SME segments are the one of the key drivers. Perhaps if you just count on a number of three, perhaps they are one of the three key drivers that are driving the economy. At least in the Indian context, is it very much relevant and very true. And organizations like you have a greater role to play to lead and to help the segments, SME segments, to do their businesses seamlessly with all the guards and everything in place. Yeah, thank you so much for this. And I would also like to know uh, from all of you again. So I think I'll ask Anurag first on how your workforce has adapted or how they have understood the entire need for digital transformation practices and how supportive have they been and what kind of initiatives that you have taken to empower them in this digital transformation context.
Thanks, Dr. Rajeshree. Yeah, am I audible, I hope?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So I think the first most important thing to understand is that the employees. I think they are the ones who make us, and it's vice versa. But so it's more important to make them comfortable with any change. Since we were already a digital first organization, it was not much of a challenge to sort of switch to the work from home mode. Of course, as I said earlier, there's a camaraderie, there's a feeling of working together, the belongingness and safety. So I think for what we had to make sure was that the people feel safe when they are working remotely. And definitely in the middle when things got better, we did try to sort of do a work from office again, but we realized that efficiencies are equally high when you are working from home, because you save on travel time, the costs for us are low. From a revenue point of view also, things get better when people start thinking in their comfort zone as well. So those are things that we try to push the team on, showing them the brighter side of how we are working today. So that was about people change. But since we are and I'm not sure how much you would know about GHV, but we are a digital transformation specialist when it comes to enterprises leveraging the technologies that are being developed by the startups of the country. Now, we have always been of the belief that there's no need of reinventing the wheel when someone is already working on that. And today we are sitting at the most peak season of, so to say, of innovation when it comes to startups, developing new and new solutions every day. So what we've been able to yield for our enterprise clients and partners is the uh, framework using which they are able to sort of work with startups to innovate and digitize their current processes. And most of the time, when they realize that the cost of digitization and the cost of this tech makeover usually outweighs the the benefits of the tech makeover outweigh the cost of the digitization. That's when they realize that this was probably a more efficient and a more easier thing than what they had imagined earlier. So having said that, as I said, and as you also, it's a very good question because it's about a mindset. And from a mindset change, I think it is most important to understand how open people are to change and how we can help them in crossing over to a digital thought process. And further, of course, I think what we forget, as management at times, and in a lot of SMEs I've seen, it's uh, they a lot of SMEs even today lack tech talent, because of which they're not able to measure the impact and hence lose interest at times. So it's important that integration has to be effective. They are able to measure the impact of the digitization done, and also I think having a separate budget for digitization, like I think Gaurav was mentioning, if I'm not wrong earlier, that having a tech budget is important today to basic, and there's a lot of saving that we are able to, as enterprises we are able to save on costs of office infrastructure, overheads when we are working from home. Why don't we reallocate that to a technology side and make our operations much more efficient? And you never know how much this world will be impacted in the new normal for how long. And I think it is best to be prepared, and invest in something that will help us become more sustainable for the future. I hope that answers your question.
It has answered my question in more than in a very comprehensive way. You have actually touched upon very interesting points altogether. And if I have to quote the Western world's reports, perhaps some 5 6 or 7 8 years ago, so back in some one of those conferences outside India, people had started talking about reducing the travel time and cutting down their budgets on the travel time, rather because of the carbon emission and all that, because that time that was a challenge for them. And so that is how futuristic one has to have. I mean, while we really sincerely think that the COVID situation passes over and we are again going back to our, the new normal will be very different from what was before. So, and then there are challenges like carbon emission, and there are many global challenges that would be there. So we have to thinking on those aspects, and becoming a more progressive organization, we have to actually take care of our digital transformation practices, and very rightly mentioned that reallocating the budget. So something that is not you're not spending your money on, your budget on, you can reallocate the same amount on something which is more viable and more futuristic. So I think that is very good key away from, I mean, very important point that you have mentioned, Anurag. I think, Sandeep, how do you see this happening? So my question is perhaps three or fourfold. A, employees engagement, or what kind of support or in training that was required for you, because it was a different game altogether for you. And so integration, how are they now taking it? Challenges that you might have had, and what are the IT spends that, I mean, that you have budgeted around it? So some three, four things together in one question. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the way I would kind of answer your question is to start with saying we all may be in the same storm, but not in the same boat. Okay, so I think every organization has a unique situation, and and a unique kind of background and unique processes. Maybe industry wise, it could be kind of similar. In our context, I think. So they're like there. Let me just talk about some positive side to this is I think initial adaptation, as I said, was fraught with challenges because culturally you're not used to kind of dealing with it. But I think the good part is that you know what we actually needed as a service organization was more collaborating tools, more of cloud kind of platforms. And I think they, if you actually see, one of the reasons why services typically more digital services hasn't been so much impacted is because there was a lot of innovation that had already taken place in terms of collaboration tools like Teams, Google Meet, cloud platforms. And I think we were able to reallocate in terms of our budgets and kind of get on with that. In terms of so that's like just answering your broader question as to how we were impacted. Yeah, initial glitches were there, but we quickly kind of reallocated in terms of our funds, investments, and we recognized that that was the need. In terms of how your second question was, how the employees as a whole kind of took that. Well, I would say is I won't kind of answer to say whether they enjoyed, they didn't enjoy, but I think I may have a little differing opinion, but my take is that a lot of young workforce typically didn't have much challenge in terms of adopting to it. But I want to talk about a little more around that. But I think after a few months, a lot of workforce, started to realize that as humans, digital doesn't really substitute for a physical, more kind of contact. So I would say is that the need for some of these collaboration tools, etc., is has been more to kind of exist. But my experience is that I think for a longer term, I don't think so. Workforce have been kind of going to enjoy that in the sense that. When lockdown happened, and soon after lockdown happened, everybody was stuck. When the lockdown opened, a large set of our workforce actually traveled back to their hometowns, and they stayed with their families. When things started getting better, they made their own voluntary choices to come back and start working at the office. um, and that was an interesting experience, where I could feel that people sitting at home weren't enjoying too long. So in terms of how just summarizing how the staff actually took, I think they were great in terms of adapting to the way of working, because the first challenge was to exist, and I think everybody came together as a team. There were challenges on productivity, and I cannot take that away. That we still have challenges in terms of productivity around that, because work is not like one style of work. Where you're solving problems you're not solved previously, then there's a lot of unstructured set of activities that you got to do, and I don't think so digital has helped us very much. But I think we strategized ourselves, but where it came to tasks which are more repetitive, I think we've been able to kind of do the heavy lifting work, and be happy. In terms of just last bit, in terms of how the customers kind of perceiving this, so I would just have two quick experiences to share. So what earlier worldwide people would all I mean, generally businesses try to always put automation on the back burner until the time it really becomes a challenge. So we could actually see customers coming up and signing up with us, because they felt that they had a deluge of manual work and tasks, and with a remote set of working, it was becoming even more difficult. So they wanted to bring technology and standardize the process. So that was one I would call as a very positive part of change that I could perceive. The second interesting, and it's been, I mean, I would say is that I've been proven wrong in my initial belief, is we were to kind of, just before the lockdown, I was to actually do a strategy work for one of the largest fintech organization in the country, and we were to travel, and like consultants, our engagement was to travel every week for a few days, and it was unthinkable that we could ever do that work remotely. The lockdown happened, and it got kind of stuck for a while. 2 months later, they called up, said, can we do this remote? I said, well, let's try it out. And I just walked wonderful. It was I mean, I couldn't imagine, and we just did it. So I would say that it really has to do with what tasks you have in hand. And some of the tasks have been could be remodeled, or the processes of executing the tasks could be reimagined to be done even better. And there are some tasks that I would kind of maintain that is going to be difficult to do it in a pure digital way. So that's my not so short answer. Thanks.
Wonderful, because this is very exhaustive, and because each industry has its own set of challenges, and there are certain tasks that we thought we would never be able to take up remotely, and we could do that. Of course, there are challenges and there are processes, and we have just sort of attained one level of maturity and readiness, because it's not just it's not we, or it's just not just the leaders, the entire ecosystem, the people, the processes, the customers, and your expectations. So the aspirations and expectations, these are very softer. What do you call it? We cannot measure them, but these also have a very strong, perhaps, role to play. I think, Gaurav, how will you take this? I mean, if I may ask, what kind of experience you have had? Because you said that you helped with your customers, and uh, because that was a challenge. So,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of workforce training and how did you do it? Because you were already working in that space.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
yeah. So Rajshri, I'll keep it short. So it's
Hmm.
I think I realized after 6 months of lockdown. So let's say taking from March end till in the month of October, November, and time like that, we started realizing a lot of things have changed the way it was started like. So I'll tell you the major shift has happened in the phases of the mindset of the people. So it's not just a mindset shift. It's like mindset shift happening after every 3 months types. Now, I'll share. So one very different kind of a thought process that comes in owner's end. So let's say things have changed. Lockdown is there. We need to serve the clients. We need to get more clients. The entire team has to work efficiently, effectively, productively, and all those things were happening. But the mindset of the owner, leader, management people have not changed so much. So I'll tell you what happened. So in our case also, I'm also the founder and the CEO. So I also realized that expectations needs to change. Motivation, demotivation levels, and their communication has to change as well at the same time. So we used to, typically in an office, what happens is we expect the employees, the people to come by 9 or 10, whatever the office timings are, and they leave by 6, 7, or so on, and they feel the sense of responsibility. But when it goes entirely work from home, the timings actually shifts 2 hours completely. So if someone was waking up at about 6:30 in the morning, generally people, if you see your timings also, you'll realize it, it's 2 hours gone. So if you were sleeping at 11 or 12, generally you tend to sleep by 1:30 to 2:33 and things like that. So I realized that very early, at a very early stage in the middle of April itself, that we need to be really flexible, and we need to realize that all the workforce needs to realize their responsibility rather than looking at the time in the clock and looking at the time of the delivery. What we did is, innovatively, what we did is we set up a process inside where we connected all the people with our customers. Now, what I mean by with our customers is whatever, wherever they are responsible on. And we set it a turnaround time also. So if the mail comes at 8 p.m., then they have to take it up, let's say 24 hours is a tag time for that. So they have to revert to the 24 hours. And a lot of young workforce that we have, we realize that they are more flexible to work and to take breaks whenever they want. So they want a tea break or a coffee break or a chat break or whatever break. So we never interrupted in those kind of things. We did our internal thing very structured in a way that you remain in your space the way you want, but you realize the sense of responsibility, because if the company don't have the customers tomorrow, we will not have you, kind of. And if I don't have you, you will not have me. So the kind of responsibility has come from, I'm lucky enough to say, from each and everyone in the team, and they realize their own responsibility and take the ship up from wherever we work. So, and at the same time, we did a lot of sessions, like after 4 months we realized that we never celebrated anyone's birthday which has come in between. So what we did is we bought Amazon vouchers and sent to everyone, so that they can buy something for their desk, or they can buy something for that, and they realize that company has been celebrating my birthday. Now they're taking care in some way out. There has been some salary deductions also, but there has been a declared salary deductions as well in the vertical wise, as in then if there is a less work on one set of one category of clients, and it's been declared that there is a revenue dip, as so there's a salary cut. So I mean, those things have been very well communicated before that it gets to a surprise to people, and there's dissatisfaction, all that. So I think that is communication has played a very important role in terms of how the organization think, and we all need to work together to move to the next level. That's what my submission is.
That is wonderful. I mean, that is innovation to a different level altogether. But yeah, you are very right that in this situation, I think we all of us are working in that outcome mode. I think the outcomes of our any tasks that are given to us or assigned, and in our organization also, we have also ensured that we are flexible. But then we try and be very formal when we meet, because the first thing that we do in the morning is like we do a call. So, but then again, that is not something that is given by me or somebody else. It is like it's a very democratic way of organizing ourselves. And then you have the task of the day and something, some monthly targets. And when you have offices in different time zones, it's not easy to manage at times. But then we have to be very innovative, and we have to integrate the pieces together from the processes, from the platforms, and whatever is available. And I would like to ask. I wanted to ask about if somebody can just volunteer and answer the questions on the data security, because there's so much of data, so much of processes, so many things. I mean, everywhere. All of us are battling. All of us are struggling at it, as well as we are also enjoying that advantage of working from home and all the data that is there, and the data is getting some disseminated. So, if somebody from you can volunteer, just two of you can volunteer on addressing this question of data security, cyber security. What kind of measures do the organizations have to take, and how are you in collaboratively working on this? Just two of you can volunteer. Somebody who can answer this question. Gaurav, Varshaney can
Maybe
talk. Yeah, Sandeep. I would
maybe
like to have. We would
I'll
like to
just
hear
kind
from
of yeah. So
you.
data security and threat is a real challenge when we talk about virtual working, which is beyond the physical kind of perimeters of your offices. And I think
True.
my few thoughts is that I don't think so. The solution is there, but how practical the solution is questionable. But some of the ways organization can address that is to kind of have their VPN connectivity. So first of all, it depends on security is about data and information. Okay, so the first point is that data and information needs to be in a secured environment. So there are two parts where the data is stored, and how the data is being accessed. So there are two parts. So the first part is wherever the data is you have stored needs to be secured, and there are standard mechanisms that you could enable on the cloud platform with firewalls, and you can ask for additional security layers. So that's like in terms of security of where you're hosting your data or storing the data. The second part is how do you access the data, and access the data is the real kind of challenge post corona crisis. And to that extent, organizations need to kind of adapt to more of what we call as VPN connectivities, and give it more secured access. But some of the data security aspects still remain unmitigated, which is like let's just say I'm a call center agent, and I'm kind of pulling out customer information, and kind of talking on the call with the customer, I can always take pictures, from my camera. Okay, so that to that extent, that threat is still not mitigated. So summarizing that, I think storing the data could be handled through various security features and privileges that you can opt for on the cloud platform. In terms of accessing, you could have VPN connectivity. You could set up your own own environment onto your onto your LAN. Ensure that you have proper authentications for every staff with privileges. And I think those are two things that I think can be done without much of an effort. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. That was like very upfront and very prompt, spontaneous. Gaurav, Varshaney, do you have something to contribute to what Sandeep has uh, just shared?
No, I think Mr. Sandeep has actually put it very rightly. In fact, I was just thinking in my mind in terms of what can be the solution if, let's say, if a call center agent takes a picture of the data. I mean, I was just thinking in my mind what can be
Yeah,
the solution. But I mean, very rightly put. But just to maybe go maybe a step back. Data security or cyber security is actually a prominent threat right now, and it is not only about the data which has got lost. It's also a very a reputational harm for the organization who has gone through this crisis. If you're talking about I mean, we are living in a world of social media right now, where even if a small glitch is there in a system or in a tool, everybody tends to talk big about it. Now imagine an organization who has gone through a data theft. It's going to be a reputational harm. It's going to be a customer loss for them as well. So various factors involved. However, I mean, taking in account what Mr. Sandeep said, but the cyber security has to be in place at almost from I mean, to be in place on 5 levels, starting from your email security, then to your your endpoint devices. So, for example, let's say if I send an email to which is a fishy email to somebody in an organization. So from that point to the endpoint devices security is something that data needs to be secure, and that's where cybersecurity tools, which are offered by organizations like us, come into the picture. You add to it with the multi authentication factors as well. So let's say if there is an email, there are a couple of passwords, there are a couple of tools which are required in terms of opening that email. So the chances of data theft are are very minimal. As correctly said by Mr. Sandeep, what we can do as an organization or as a solution provider is that we can try and limit these losses to the minimum that we can offer. Right? Yes, there is a greater chance even then that then the data loss can happen. Data theft can happen, but the idea is how do we minimize that loss and how do we minimize the risk factor associated with all these. I think that's where we as an organization by offering 4 or 5 level of security.
Oh, okay. I think I missed the last few words. I think I missed, but I think
Sure.
I got. Yeah, I think what you suggested was like this is not a solution, just one-time solution. It is also again it should be treated as a process because you need the security, the checks at each and every level. The moment you open your laptop, and that's where you start having those standards and practices that you have to follow. And organizations like you can definitely lead and help the SME sectors and other organizations in a big way. So, thank you so much. And Sandeep ji, you and Gaurav have just you both of you have given a very good insight on the cybersecurity part of it, which is very, very important and crucial part of it. Now, I'll also have. I'll rather try to change the direction of the questions now. I think Vidushi, I'll ask you, request you to answer this question on the digital transformations ever since this intervention started happening in this situation in the COVID context. What kind of new markets that you think with your kind of a business? What kind of new markets have emerged, and what are the emerging markets, and how are you leveraging on that.
Ah, okay. So I think there is an echo.
No, there is
Is
no
it
echo, dear. We are able
all
to
right?
we are able
All
to
right,
hear.
wonderful. So, from my perspective, or from the business, from the perspective of Process Nine, I think these 14 months have brought about a tremendous amount of opportunity because of everyone realizing the importance of digital. Now, whether you are a small kirana store at the corner street, or you are a large enterprise that was still more people oriented than digital or process oriented. Everyone has realized that now they need to be digitally present, digitally active, and have a very prominent digital presence. And for someone like Process 9, where we come in is to again provide the multilingual transformation for it, which adds up another layer on the technology or digital transformation that someone has already got. Now let's say you are an MSME, or a big company that is trying to sell something online. Take any e-commerce venture. uh, Firstly, going digital enhances your capability of selling from just your city or your state to the entire country and maybe the entire world. Add to that a layer where you can actually interact in the language of your customer. Previously, you could do that because you were selling more by verbal connections or by having feet on street. But having lockdown in place, everything becomes digital. And if you're able to add a layer of languages to it, you are able to really, multiply your reach to different audiences. So that is something where we come in, and we have seen a lot of activity happening. So SMEs have really come up on this bandwagon, saying that okay, I am based out of, let's say, maybe Jaipur, but I want to sell in Hubli in Karnataka. What do I do? So this is where we come in. And also Indian companies that feel that they wish to sell now to the world. So they are in a sense getting empowered by this digitization of their own business and processes. And through the technology that we provide, they're adding that layer of amplification. So we see that this term has been really, really, a volcanic eruption, if you could say, in terms of digital presence and amplifying your reach and your messaging.
Very, very, very aptly answered this. You have answered it, and yeah, it is like more about creating a market, and your capabilities are definitely enhanced, and you're able to use your capabilities or your strength to the optimum level. And there is a need. There is a need. So market is also, customers, their expectations are getting higher and higher every day. The market is getting more vibrant and dynamic. And as a few of the panelists, they definitely shared that we have to be very fast in adapting that. And our so it is, this is how dynamic we are, I mean, in that space. Now Vinci, I would like to know from you, um, now you know that the topic is inspire and innovate and integrate, and you said that the personal warmth is very important, and that is something that you are trying to do in your own ways, apart from the processes that are there with the in the COVID time and the digital transformation context. Now, how do you see your organization or any other organization that you have been interacting with, or the other organizations, as somebody who understands the SME segment very well as a leader? How do you see this entire thing moving forward? I mean, what is in the years to come? Where do you see the innovation, inspired inspiration and integration, digital transformation, all these components together? How are they going to take us on? I think you're on mute, sir. You're on mute, sir.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I would like to say that I will take an example of demonetization. So in the case of demonetization, there was a lot of stress, there was a lot of discomfort in the beginning, when almost everybody had to shift to online payments and online transactions. So, but slowly, even after now a lot of years have passed since demonetization, but this online payments have now become the norm. So same way this thing will happen now in case of COVID also. We have had to switch more to digital interactions. So once COVID is, let's say, gone for good, hopefully soon, and then what will happen is that the uh, digital innovations will remain. They will now be a part of our daily business life, and of course there will be a lot of advantages which will stay forever. And now that we have really experienced the innovations, the new technologies, and we have integrated them into our normal systems, this integration will stay forever, and this will also pave a path for future innovations to come and be accepted readily. So in future, we will not need an interruption like COVID to accept the innovations more readily. People will be more comfortable. And when I say people, I mean people who are, let's say, younger. Younger people are always more comfortable with new technology, and the older people who are more older people are generally the CEOs or chairman of companies or owners of family enterprises. So even those people now, they are accepting the new technologies, as I said earlier, also because we interact with such people also quite often all over the world. So now they are also becoming more comfortable, and this thing is going to stay forever. So this is a positive thing out of this COVID problem, that the rate of acceptance of new technologies has increased, and it will stay on an increased level forever. I think so.
True. Rate of acceptance is really so I haven't. And I think we have the acceptance has become much higher, and we are now in some way we are ready with the new technology transformation or innovations that come our way. We are ready to adapt and accept that. So I think we are almost on the last. Perhaps I can just take the liberty of taking 3 minutes, and I'll have my last question floated across to all of you. So I'll start with you, Naviji. Two bullet points: challenge and opportunity. If I have to just take two bullet points from you, what are the challenges and opportunities in a
I
nutshell?
would say, yeah, challenge is quickly adapting to the latest technologies, a little bit more training, and let's say a gestation period is required. And the opportunity is more efficiency, more accountability, and being effectiveness is a little bit less, but yes, efficiency and accountability have increased for sure.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Vidushi, your turn.
I think the challenge now we are facing after especially 1 year of people getting the time to adapt, evolve to the new normal. Now the challenge is coming, the work from home fatigue, where people have been, they are perpetually on calls or video chats, and they are missing the sense of, being right next to their co-worker, and having that warmth and camaraderie, as we have already talked about. So I think the challenge now is really becoming work from home fatigue, and how we can uh, bridge that and still keep spirits high, and the warmth and connectivity going. The opportunity definitely is the whenever you bring in any digital aspect into your existing processes, is lot of efficiency, saving of time and costs. So that is the biggest opportunity that we have. This is the time where you can really amplify your business and your presence from maybe a small town or a small city to literally the entire world.
True, very true. Uh, Gaurav Singhal.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so quite interestingly said, Vidushi. I think the challenges have been changing with the time. So it's like, you need to, so with all the technologies and innovations which we want to bring in the organization and the processes and the new form of working or new patterns of working, new equations of getting formed up. So and what are the kinds of goals that needs to be set up, and what are the new new areas that we are looking at now. I think identifying those is a challenge, and the opportunities are in a way are humongous actually, because everyone is looking and at an expanded geography now, whatever geography that they have been working on, because the tools and technologies have changed, the way of thought process have changed. So finally what has happened is the new set of equations are forming up in front of you, new kind of opportunities are coming up in terms of lookalike audiences. If I look at lookalike customers, the new set of customers, the new set of SMEs that are borning on the technology area itself. So I think those are the opportunities that we need to look at.
Yes, yes, true. I think Sandeep, your views on this. Thank you, Gaurav.
Yeah,
Your views on this. Yeah.
yeah, sure. So I'll take the opportunities. So I think as I would say is Gaurav Singhal talked about was opening of new geographies. I mean, from as suppliers or producers, I would say the opportunity lies in terms of now you can access larger market. The customers are more receptive to getting on a call or a video call than a face-to-face meeting. So I think that's a real opportunity, and I would say companies are able to kind of convert them to reality, to some to larger extent, some to limited extent. So from that standpoint, there are opportunities from time effectiveness. I would say there are opportunities. Anyone you want to kind of have a call, you can ping. You get on a video call. In physical offices, you got to go up and down the floor, look for the person, try and give him a call. So I think those are clearly opportunities. Okay, you save time on travel. For larger organizations, equally, they save cost on rents, infrastructures, transportation. So that clearly there are a lot of opportunities. In terms of challenges, well, again, it's going to be subjective positioning of people. Whether we're talking about in terms of organization, we're talking about in terms of individuals. I think as a whole, I think the challenge is that the human touch is kind of not that much. The bonding, the trust is something that's still not the best. I think that's the challenge for I think from people who are working employees. Typically anyone who's less than 15 years, long-term work from home is not a good option, because you're not going to be able to learn too much. For organizations, yes, if you're into creating something, new projects, new launches, new initiatives, they're going to take kind of longer from that standpoint. Yeah. So those
Yes.
would be, my thoughts.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sandeep.
Yeah.
Anurag, your quick insights. Your
Thanks, Dr. Rajeshree. I think the most important when it comes to challenges, I think fatigue is definitely one of them. But as Vidushi also rightly said, um, I also feel that we haven't touched this subject, but the physical and mental fitness of the workforce and you yourself is of high importance now, because not many people are realizing how our um, mental frameworks and physical frameworks are changing. So to cope up with that is a challenge, definitely. Secondly, I think another challenge is that from a digital transformation point of view, innovation is a constant. Innovation will keep happening, and technology will fast evolve. So what is important for us is to be able to cope up with that, and now we have to do that remotely. So that's a challenge that we have to be cognizant of. From the opportunities point of view, I think it's definitely. I think many people have said it today. The market is now global for us. It's not local anymore. So geography advantage, definitely. Another opportunity I see is that when we work through digital methodologies, there's a lot of data. There's much more data, and there's much more analytics we can derive out of that data, and how that data can be utilized to create more opportunities and take better decisions. I think that's another strategic advantage that we are that I'm seeing today, with this situation coming on us. So yeah, I mean, we have to make the best of what we have. So from that point of view, I think data is the best what we can get in today's scenario.
True, true, very aptly said. Gaurav, Varshaney, your views on the challenges and
No,
opportunities.
I think every panelist has summed up really well. I'll not take much time on this, but from my mind, opportunity. If I look at it, I think from mind, I think the constant investment in terms of the IT infrastructure for an SME. I think that's going to be a challenge. Because, till now what they have done is it's just it's just maybe a reactive approach. Now it's going to be going forward. It's going to be a proactive approach, and how they constantly engage and actually invest in the IT infrastructure. That's going to be a challenge for me, what I think. And obviously, work from home fatigue. I think from a heart, I think that's going to be a challenge for the organization and for employees as well. As far as the opportunities, I think again very aptly put by panelists. I think we've got a huge opportunity in terms of the expanded market. I also think there is an opportunity to innovate for next 1.5 years, considering the time we are in right now. Lot of opportunity to innovate and actually implement specifically for the SMEs of the world. So I think these are the two things that
Thank you so much. I think with this, we should definitely come to a culmination of this panel discussion. Wonderful one, as you all know, everything good has to come to an end, and if the end is very logical and very thoughtful and enriching, so why not? We have to conclude ourselves here. Till we meet again, but uh, before closing the session formally, I would really thank each and every one of you, Anurag, Sandeep, Vidushi, Gaurav, Naveen, Gaurav, all of you. And thank you so much for joining us here. And the key takeaways, I mean, the reason I asked you, because there's so much that we have discussed today. And I thought, let me at least have some points to take back home. And that's where I thought the opportunities and challenges would work. And you very rightly, all of you have mentioned that, yeah, efficiency, time, and cost and accountability, these are the very key components that have can be, I mean, these are the advantages that we can see that are there. And the new equation and patterns that Gaurav Singhal you have talked about, you've very rightly mentioned that we do not know. So identifying those challenges, the new patterns, are something that we need to work upon it. So these are not challenges, but yeah, we have some added responsibilities as a community, as a SME community. We have to work on that. And of course, geography is like nowadays, like doctors without borders, so SMEs without borders now, and businesses without borders. We can say that this is the richness, this is the strength that the digital transformation has created for us, with COVID or without COVID. And definitely, we have talked about. Sandeep, you have very rightly mentioned that it has to be seen in two ways, whereas from the organization's perspective and from the individual's perspective, the challenges are like if any individual, if the person has not spent, let's say, 15 years or something, that we talked about it. So it's like very important that we cannot have people who are in their learning stage to be working from home or in their own spaces, because the learning is not there. The kind of learning that we want to have, or the trust, the confidence is also something these are very softer issues, but these are very important ones to take care of. That the new organizations have to reinvent in terms of the thought leadership. Fine. And something, Anurag, you talked about fatigue. Vitushi, you actually advocated the entire work from fatigue concept here. And data, you talked about, Anurag, is very important. Now that we have more data, we can play with the data. More analytics can be generated, and we can have more qualified and decision making capabilities can be built. However, opportunities are there. Gaurav, Varshaney, you talked about the opportunities that we can now innovate and implement in the next 1.5 years. And I hope I have not missed out on anything. Naveenji, you talked about the challenges in terms of we need to. There is no time, so the time should be. We need to have time, quality time to train our workforce, the support system, the capacity building has to be there for the entire ecosystem. That is something which is very important. And I think I have covered all the points. I may have misquoted the panelists, but I think I have covered all the points. But again, it is really important that since one of the panelists they mentioned about not creating or reinventing the wheel by ourselves. If we are good at one thing, let us be the best in one thing. Let us collaborate. Let us join hands. Leverage each other's capabilities and technology strengths and platforms that are available, and let us strengthen ourselves. With this, I would request Gaurav Varshaney from Tata Tele Business Services to kindly extend the formal vote of thanks, and we will close it here. Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
Gaurav, over
Rashi,
to
and
you.
I really want to, yeah, thank you, Dr. Rashi, for summing it up very nicely. And on behalf of Tata Tele Business Services, we want to thank all the panelists, Ms. Vidushi, Mr. Anurag, Mr. Sandeep, Mr. Gaurav, Mr. Sharma. Thank you very much for your time. I know we have extended by almost 15 extra minutes, I think, but I hope you enjoyed this session. It was great listening to all these panelists, all you guys. It was a power-packed session, and I'm going to take away a lot of points which are going to be there in my mind for next some time now. And all I can say is that stay safe, stay connected. It's a difficult time, but I think as a country, as humanity, we will overcome this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.